Hey, hello, Laura. Hello, friends. Happy Monday. Welcome to Coffee Talk. We are brought to you by the Rhee Company. And today we have a special show. It's just Laura and Rhee hanging out. We've been doing this for a while, and we have conversations before each show. And I thought I'd dedicate this whole show to our conversations, and we have no idea what's about to happen.
Nope. Nope. Hey, Rhee, how you doing?
I am really good. I'm a happy camper. How about you?
Good. I'm good. I'm coming off competition weekend. So I feel like I'm coming off the comp high right now. And it was really good. It was a tough comp, and it was just solos, duos, and trios. That's how we always start our season, just to kind of let them get their feet wet with that. And they did really well. The talent was great. And a lot of first-time soloists for us and duos and trios. So I feel like it was a different vibe than years past. We had more seasoned soloists. So this was a lot of rookies going into it, but they did really well. I'm really proud. A lot of judges awards and studio spotlight from one of my choreographers. So it was a great weekend for like teachers and the dancers. So that was good.
And was it many hours in an auditorium or not that bad?
So Saturday was a full day. It was like 8 to 8. And I was there the whole time because I had some duos that I had, and a duo and a trio that were mine that I choreographed. And I was free all Saturday, so I went. And then Sunday, my company director and one of my other teachers went. I did not go. And that was, it's funny, they laughed like, it's a short day. It's 10 to 7. And in the comp world, we all know that is like a short day. So yes, I wasn't there on Sunday, but I feel like as a studio owner, like this was a recital costume week at the studio. So there was exchanges that had to happen, and people were like, I didn't order one. Can I order one? It's just like the next wave of the crazy going into recital season and comp season. So I'm like, I need 5 hours on a Sunday just to get that handled and done, because it's March. Like these costumes, we got to get this going if anything needs to be exchanged, So yeah, so that was interesting not being there on Sunday, but I have great staff. I have an incredible company director who always holds it down for me. And another one of my teachers was there too, and she was great. So yeah, and the girls did awesome. It was a great weekend. Like did really well. So I'm happy with them.
Good for you. Good for
Thanks.
you. The
Thanks. How was your
beginning
weekend?
of the season.
I know. Cheers.
Well, I say that because I really feel like I can tell if you go on social media at all that everybody is beginning to hit competition, costumes are happening, recitals are being thought about. It's like, okay, I would remind everybody, though, that is listening or watching on demand, this is what we dreamed about, you guys. This is what we wanted for ourselves. We are living that dream. And I hope that when we go into the auditorium, we go in really excited on the first couple weekends. If you're doing more than that, make sure you're just as excited on the last weekend. It's the journey that we are lucky enough to live, is how I look at it.
Yeah. I feel like 5-year-old Laura like dreamt of this. I remind myself on those long weekends. Like 5-year-old Laura hoped someday she'd own a studio. Never mind a studio that has a performance team with 61 kids just on that. Like that, when I really sit back and think about that, I'm like, that boggles my mind. Because I have another 200 plus at the studio that not even on the team, So I feel like when you look at it that way, it's like, wow, we are some of the lucky ones. For sure.
I, as we said when we started this, we don't know where we're going to go, but let's stay here for a second.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I feel like we, as dance educators, studio owners, whatever that dream was that we actually accomplished, should be more appreciative of where we are. Like you just said, yes, you at whatever age, 11 years old, whatever it was, dreamed of having your own studio. And now it's beyond what you ever dreamed about. Stop and remind yourself of just that.
Yeah.
And let that be what inspires you to go for that day. And also look around at other people in the what I'll call normal world. And how many of them had dreams but didn't have the guts?
Right. Yeah, because I feel like it takes a lot of courage. It's what I'm realizing to go into any sort of entrepreneurial field, but an entrepreneurial field in the arts, that's like next level because what we do is an optional extracurricular activity, right? They can do sports at school for less. They can do other things for less. And, I feel like I'm sure my parents were nervous when I opened up the studio, but I feel like a big part of it was that it's going into being an entrepreneur in the arts. That's a different level of risk. So I feel like when you do it and you have a successful business in whatever way you think it's successful, whether it's with 100 kids or 1,000 kids, the fact that you have that business and, you're creating revenue for yourself, a livelihood for your family. I feel like that's like top tier goals in my mind. That was always what I wanted to do. I wrote out, you're going to laugh at me, Rhee. You're gonna be like, oh, this makes sense. When I was 18, I was 17. I was a freshman in college. I still have it. I wrote out a list of things that I wanted to accomplish in my life. And I think the 10th thing on my list was open up a dance studio by the time I was 25. And when I was 25, I pulled out that list and I saw it. And I literally said to myself, it's now or never. And because of that list, I did it. Because I'm like, little Laura, this is what she wanted. This is what she always wanted to do. And it's funny, I haven't rewritten my list in like years, but on my way to our retreat for the Gold Alliance, I rewrote my list and like updated it of like things. Now where I'm at, I'm almost going to be 40. I sat on the plane for 2 hours, pulled out my notebook that I used at Gold Alliance retreat, and I just wrote out like new life goals. And some of them were the same, like certain things that I've already accomplished. I wanted to put them on there so I knew that I did it. But yeah, that dance studio, that love, that passion that's in you, and it never fades. And if it does, I feel like you just need to like pull yourself out of it and take a class. Yeah, like go re-inspire yourself because there's so much around that we can do to re-inspire as artists, which we're very lucky about, go take a class, go see a show, whatever.
And I feel like today in 2025, I keep saying 2024. It's taken me a long time to skip into 2025. I was recording last week. We were doing these reels and everybody was helping me, supporting me. And I kept saying 2024, come see us at the conference in 2024.
I know. It's still early, so I get it. It's like when you write your check out, you put 2024, and you're like, oh, let me change that to a 5.
I think I should have figured it out by now. That's an admission.
It's true. It is March. I'm giving the benefit of the doubt, though.
It is. And I didn't enjoy 2024, so of course, I enjoyed the journey. Wait, I don't want to be contradictory, but I was ready for 2025.
I was too.
Okay, so I was about to say, what was I about to say?
We're talking about the arts and being re-inspired.
Oh, in dance right now, I feel like whether you're a business owner and a teacher or one or the other, the evolution of possibilities is happening faster right now than ever before. It's like, yes, you can grow, you can evolve, and there are tools out there to help you do it. This is an era for dance education like we've never seen before.
I agree. And I feel like, too, to kind of add on to that, this is a time for you to really think about what is your business? What do you want your business to be? And is it different from when you opened it up year 2, year 1, year 3? Has it evolved? It's okay if it evolves. It's okay if you want a more competitive team. It's okay if you want to leave the competitive world and be a recreational studio. Like, there's so many studios that are booming that's completely recreational, right? Like, I think with evolution comes the door to be open, that you can make your studio grow into any direction you want it to grow, which I feel is really cool, because I think in the beginning I wanted one thing, and then once I got to year 4, year 5, I wanted it to grow in a different direction. And now year 14, I kind of wanted to grow in multiple directions, which is an interesting situation. So I feel like it's okay for us as studio owners and teachers to want to evolve too, and let the studio evolve in different ways. It doesn't have to be what it was year 1 through 5. And it shouldn't. It should keep growing and evolving.
Okay, you made me think of a question. First, I want to say hi, Tammy. We got some other friends here.
Yep.
What changed that first time from what you thought you wanted after, let's say, that first 5 years to where you landed in goals 5 years later? Ooh, I hope that made sense.
Yeah. I'd say the first 5 years, I just wanted students. Just in general. I don't care what age you are. And then once I was open to whomever. And then I feel like I really thought about like the legacy of my studio. And I was thinking about my home studio. My studio owner, I went to Anna Marie's in Northeast Philadelphia. And Anna Marie, she has passed about 3 years ago at this point, but she had a studio for 42 years in our city, and she was just known to create very well-rounded dancers. That's something that I wanted to bring, but I feel like she really helped me understand at like year 4 through 6, the babies are where it's at. And until that clicked, my studio didn't really start to grow. Once I started marketing to babies and bringing babies into the studio, and I mean, at one point it's kind of how it is now, but my older classes have grown more. I had equal amount of babies than I did like 6 and up. And to me, like that's the goal again. Like as my babies start to graduate into like the older kid intermediate program, like the babies, to me, she just kept saying to me, the babies are your bread and butter. They're your future. And I feel like I really invested in that. And now I see those babies that I've had since they were 2 and 3. They're now my petite line, and there's 21 of them. They're now my mini line. There's 22 of them. Like, it takes a while for that growth to happen and it to go through the stages of your studio and to make your team strong. But I definitely see that now, and that's exciting. And then I say now, it's interesting. I just had this conversation with my company director this weekend. I used to be a little nervous about having such young kids on team, or having such young dancers have solos, duos, and trios, because I feel like it's a very competitive world, and it can be a really positive experience, or maybe a negative. And that always scared me in the past, because I'm like, oh, what if this 9-year-old has this solo and she runs off stage crying? How do I pick up those pieces, right? It's easier to pick up those pieces when they're 13 versus when they're 9 or 8. But now I'm just kind of seeing the dance world and how fast it's going. And in order to give these kids more opportunities to have super strong performance abilities as a soloist or as a duo, I do think we have to give them more opportunities when they're young. That's like this whole like moment I had in the past like year or so. So I think that's something I'm going to start doing at the studio next year. And I haven't said this yet, but we're going to start offering like a micro team. Here's the official announcement, Libra Dance Studio. We're going to start a micro team, and it's going to be ages like 4, 5, and 6 next year. And I would have never thought I would ever do that. Like, ever.
Micro team.
Yeah,
that's the evolution I was talking about. I want to ask you about the micro team. What are your expectations for the micro team? Will they come once a week? How will you do micro team?
Yeah, so the micro team we're going to pull from our current like 5 and under program. It's going to be a 1 hour a week class. There's not going to be a ballet technique class. It's like requirement attached to it. If they want to take any other classes, they're more than welcome to, but to be on the micro team, it's going to be either an hour and 15. And I kind of have a feeling it's going to be very jazz based, or maybe a cute little tap routine that they'll do. But I think we have a February gala, so they'll perform in that. And then we go to 3 competitions, but I think I'm just going to take them to 2. So it's going to be like competition light. I know that's like a term that everyone's using these days. So it's going to be like an intro to competition, and maybe add in like a nursing home performance and some other opportunities for them that maybe my older girls can't do because they're involved in a lot of school activities as well, and school grades and AP classes and all of that. But yeah, I think in my area, what I'm realizing is a lot of kids are getting pulled into like competitive programs, whether it's soccer or cheer or tumbling, young at the micro age.
I agree with that. As somebody who's a little older than you, I wish they were out in their backyard playing in the woods. That's all I'm going to say. I accept where we are.
Correct.
And we need to keep our kids occupied. But I come from a place where maybe you didn't put the pressure on a child that young. Yeah. And maybe it isn't pressure. I could be off on that. I'm a guy who's like, I find myself trying to balance old and new. So I would agree. And on this part, especially, what a child at the age of 7 or 10 or older can do today.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
it's wild.
I mean, I make a joke of it, but it is the truth. I was maybe 10, 11 years old. I did a double pirouette. People went ballistic.
Right. Okay? And now, Rhee, my 9-year-olds are doing that.
Ooh, it wasn't a double pirouette. I just maybe said a bad word.
It's okay. We have an adult audience. but you know what, Rhee? And it's so true now. But now my 9-year-olds, they're getting doubles and triples. You know what I mean? It is a different time. It is. But a part of me does agree with you as a mom. And my son's 4. And when I schedule his stuff out, he goes to school Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Tuesday night we have swim, and Wednesday night we have soccer. But that's all we do. I'm not adding in another soccer, another this. And can I tell you, Rhee, I had this experience with Cole last week, and I literally said to myself, "Ooh, that's what it feels like to be on the mom side of things." And I felt this little pride in the moment, but I knew my kid couldn't handle it just yet. Cole's a really good soccer player. Naturally, it's what he loves to do. I have a feeling that that's what he's going to excel in, especially with having some special needs. When he's on the soccer field, he is zoned in. That is what he loves to do. And he's been doing 8-week sessions at this huge soccer. It's like a full sport arena. And when we were leaving, I went to the front desk. I'm like, "Oh, this is the last day of the session, right?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Oh, the next session, when does that start?" She goes, "End of March." And the coach goes, now Cole's 4. And the coach goes, "He can do 7U, 7 and under." And I looked at her and I said, "What?" I said, "No, he's only 4. And she goes, "No, he has a leg." And I smiled, and I was like, "Oh, this is what it feels like, to get that, move him along." And I almost started drinking the Kool-Aid. I almost jumped on board.
Wait, did you not do it?
I didn't, because I feel like because he has autism and ADHD, I feel like he needs some more socialization skills in order to be in the same room as like 5, 6, and 7-year-olds and be able to build friendships and relationships and all those things. But she said it 3 times. And I was like, I think we're going to, she goes, no, he has a leg. He could do it, Mom. And like, she just kept like, and I said, I so appreciate it, but I think I'll wait and he'll be 5 in September and I'll bump him up in the fall. She's like, okay, just wanted to let you know. She like kept like pushing it. And I was like, but it was just so funny. I was like, oh, this is what it's like when your 6-year-old gets to dance with 9-year-olds. I get it.
Maybe we should steal that line and say to parents, oh, she's got a leg like you wouldn't believe.
I'm telling you, it made me feel good. Not gonna lie. Yeah. So.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny. And her second leg is pretty good too.
I'm proud. Cole's a lefty, and that says a lot in our dance world. So I'm like, I got a lefty. Oh yeah, Erin's saying my son loves being outside and riding his quad and dirt bikes. My Cole's the same way. I feel like it's just a different time though. Like you're saying though, Rhee, like that being out back and playing in the backyard. I don't know. I feel like we probably could find a balance, but then there's all different flavors of parenting. And some people just want their kid to be 30 hours a week in activities. And some people say we'll take 1 activity a week. But I think that's why there's so many different options for dance studios. We have to. You can't be one lane because not everyone wants the same thing. So I think it kind of works too in the long run for us as studio owners, right? Like,
it's also it's part of the evolution. There's a personal evolution in dance studio ownership where at certain, like you said, at certain points in time, you want this.
Right.
That could change 10 years down the road or even 5 years down the road because your personal life changed or you became a parent or you have a significant other or you've been at this 33 years and maybe you want to sell. Like,
yeah.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a few questions that I'd like to.
Go ahead.
See. If you were to tell the younger Laura something at 25 when she opened her studio that you know now that you did not know at 25, what would you tell her?
So I did have a moment to think about this, so I do have an answer.
Ooh.
This will always be like my answer to this. You just had me closed in the Gold Alliance meeting last Friday. Delegation. Laura, you can't do it all, and nor should you have to. I used to drown in Libra Dance Studio, and I would throw myself into it. I remember when I opened up Libra, I signed my lease at the pool in Vegas. I went to Las Vegas before I opened up Libra Dance Studio for 7 days. Who goes to Vegas for 7 days? Let's start there for a vacation. I was 25. I signed my lease. I faxed it over because we're going back 14 years. So I faxed it over. And then I said to my friend, let's go party because you're never going to see me for the next 5 years. And she laughed. And I was like, no, I'm serious. You're never going to see me again. And I missed, it was worth it. Don't get me wrong. Those first 5 years, so they got it established. But year 5 through 10, I shouldn't have been doing everything that I was doing. Year 10 through 14, I figured it out and I stopped. I started delegating. I put department heads in. I threw more onto my office staff. There's just things that I should have been delegating sooner. And especially because I did have the funds to do it. It was more of a control thing. And it was control.
That was good. Okay, so because I like motivating people or giving them things to think about, what do you suggest to those who, because it isn't about the funds. We might use the funds as an excuse. Oh, I don't know if I can afford that. But if you were getting other stuff done that brought in big bucks because you weren't doing the little jobs, you then could afford it. But what is it that you think you could advise those who are afraid to let go of that control you were just talking about?
Okay, so I was taught through the Gold Alliance the 80-20 rule, and that changed my world as a studio owner. The 80-20 rule is if you hand something off to one of your employees, you're going to be as clear as possible with your expectations, write it all out, have your process written down, hand it to them, but know that when you get it back, it will be 80% done to your standard. And that's okay, because if it saved you 3 hours of your time to get it to 80%, that's a win. If it saved you 10 hours of your time to get it to 80%, that's a win. Yeah, I feel like if you set the expectation that it's not going to be your perfect, but it's still going to be it's still going to be 80% done, then be thankful that it's 80% done and you don't have to worry about all of more than half of it. I feel like that was a big thing for me. Once I realized that you can still have your hand in your business, but not micromanage it, that was big for me. And to me, the 80-20 rule was a game changer, because I would be like, well, what if the newsletter gets sent out and it's not ready? And, like my mentors were like, so look it over and then you just push send after you look it over once it's done. And I was like, oh, like it's like common sense things now. Like, of course I can tell her to not send it until I do a look over and add, oh, we're actually not doing this year. Just take that out. We're going to do this instead. Add that in. And then I would say to her, you read it over so you know everything that I changed in there if someone has a question, and then send it. That's just like a little example of it. But yeah. And like even too, when costumes would come in, I used to open every costume and hang them up and check them in. Why am I doing that? Why am I doing that? My office staff can do that. Like they're more than capable. I feel like having the trust that your staff can do it and wants your business to succeed too, because they're invested in it, also gives a different level of ownership that they're providing a service and they're investing in the business and they feel a part of it. I think that's a big deal too, because then they're going to want it to succeed. They're going to see what it takes also for the machine to move forward. So yeah, a lot of different pieces of that.
It's a shift in our thinking process. It's like your 80-20 rule is great, but I look at it as what could I be doing with my time and how valuable is that?
Right.
My time is my future when it comes to business.
Mm-hmm.
Am I strategizing for the next year, or am I drowned in this year's responsibility that I have a hard time handing over?
Yeah.
And I find myself back in this place on an annual basis?
Right.
And how do I change it?
Yeah, and I feel like as studio owners, we have to allow ourselves to dream. We have to schedule time for us to dream. I feel like the owners, we're the dreamers. We're the one who thought of this whole studio. So you have to allow yourself time to dream about where you see it going. That's something that I stopped doing for a couple years. And now I'm like a little bit more like in tune with where I want it to go and the shift in where I want it to go. And then delegating allows me time to offer different things in the summer, to start planning ahead. And, if we're going to have more specialties next year, well, we need more staff who's interested in doing specialties. So I'm already on, putting my feet on the ground and looking at my staff right now. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And their brains are like, oh my God, yeah, I would love to do that. And so they're getting excited about next season. So it's, it keeps everything fresh at the studio too. The staff doesn't get complacent. They're looking ahead. They're seeing the big picture. Yeah, it keeps everything moving forward, which is nice.
Erin's really into this conversation today. Hi, Erin. Yeah. Good to see you.
It's also good for the culture. Yeah, I like that. It's so true. Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like it's probably, I'm not a student anymore, But at my home studio, I always saw the teachers collaborating and talking and doing things together, whether it's, choreographing finale together or giving critiques for other dances. Like, I think when the kids see that camaraderie in the staff too, that's their example of teamwork, right? Like that's us showing them what it is to be a part of a team as adults. So I think that's exciting, like we got a studio spotlight award for creativity this weekend, but two that they specifically listed were not my dances. They were one of my teachers' dances, my company director. And you bet your butt I said the studio won a studio spotlight award for creativity, but shout out to Miss Brittany because her dances were the reason why we got it, and that doesn't, I'm proud of her. I'm proud that I have such talented people on staff that their choreography and their ideas get noticed for creativity awards. Like how lucky am I that I have someone like that and multiple people like that on team? Like that's what you want. So I think to me, I'm like, I want people to know that as the owner, I'm acknowledging her and I appreciate her in a public way. I think that's important. And I think my dancers see that and they're posting, "Go Miss Brittany, we're proud of you," and I love that. I think that's how it should be.
I think your point is so interesting because, as you know and other people know, I ran or produced dance competitions in my younger days.
Rhee, how many years did you do that? For how many years? Like it was like 15, 20?
24 years.
Wow.
Started at 17. But this is something I often saw, what you just discussed, a studio owner running up and accepting an award when it was a choreography award for one of their teachers. And you get the point. That used to be a little bit hard for me to accept. I look at it like you do. Oh, I got somebody who can choreograph. I don't have to worry about 20 of the pieces of choreography. I'm not intimidated by it. I'm glad this person landed under my roof.
Oh, yeah.
And let's celebrate this person.
And I feel like maybe a better way to handle that, this is what I have done, and I'm saying it's better, but when the choreographer wasn't there, maybe they left, maybe they weren't at that competition, I would always go on stage and say, "I'm the owner, but I am accepting this on behalf of Miss Brittany, on behalf of Miss Regina, on behalf of Miss Allison." And when I would get off stage, it's amazing how the moms would say, "That was really nice of you to do that." And I was like, well, it's not my dance. Like they're my students, but that's not my choreography. Like that was, you should acknowledge them. She's like, yeah, just a lot of people don't do that. Like you're saying, like, I think that should be a little bit more maybe etiquette from the studio owners. That I think that's something that we could bring to acknowledge them. Because yes, they are our students, but the teachers are making some magical things happen. And when they're being acknowledged by a competition or in any platform, I feel like we should be patting them on their back and we should be there. Like how Erin's saying, we should be their cheerleaders because that's what a leader does in my eyes, to cheer them on, cheer the kids on, cheer the teachers on. I think it's important.
And it creates a culture where everybody loves working.
Yeah.
And the owner has so little to worry about that they can concentrate on making their school grow because they built a team that respects each other and a community in their school that is that way. And a belief I have is how your culture is or how the attitude is at the top part of your studio always trickles down from the owner.
Yes, I agree with you.
You can't tell all your people that you want great customer service and to be energetic in class if you're not that way.
Right.
So I look at it as I'm setting the tone. I am the example of what I'm looking for. And by giving that example, other people they can figure it out by osmosis because the vibe is there.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
I was a little passionate about that, huh?
So I have a question, Rhee. So you were in the competition world for a very long time, but now I feel like you are in a completely different space. Do you think 17-year-old Rhee ever envisioned himself to take this like journey and be like where you are right now, running conferences and having, think tank groups like Gold Alliance and 2.0 and public speaking? And like, what did you think this was your path? Like, is this shocking to you? What does it feel like?
Wow, good question. No, the first thing I'll say is no, I never imagined the path. If you took me back to 15, 16, even 17, 18 through my 20s, I wanted to be a performer. I guess I pictured myself on Broadway or TV, like Saturday night on the Carol Burnett show or something like that. That's what I envision. But the journey, you end up being and we danced in Las Vegas. We did professional gigs as the Sherry Gold Dancers, which was a company that my mother had created. But I started teaching at a low-income housing project at 15. At 17, I started running this dance competition to raise money to buy costumes for that dance company to do a gig in Las Vegas.
Wow.
So we made the money and the competition was really successful. So then we ran it again, and it was just our company that ran it. We were at the time you had secretaries because you would hand write the critique. So all the secretaries were at the dance company, all the people on the microphone, all of that stuff. And it just kept growing. And then the company disbanded and it moved into let's do a second one, a third one, until for me, I got out when we were going to more than 50 cities. Now I'm laughing because I couldn't take it. I watched the competition world change dramatically from the age of 17 through 24 years later. I was early 40s, 42, maybe 43, I guess, something like that. When I started, we would give in first, second, and third, and everybody danced against each other, like tap, jazz, ballet, acrobatics, gymnastics, baton twirling. You're all in the same category. 3 people went home with the first, second, and third place trophy.
That was it.
Yeah, entry fees were low because you didn't have all of everybody winning an award and all of the elaborateness of what it has become today.
Right.
And so in the end, I'm going to make this quick. In the end, after the 24 years, I was burned out. I would sit at home on the Thursday or Friday, and I'd be on a phone, this office phone, and there were like 4 lines. And somebody would be calling from the Canadian competition and go, Rhee, the guy's not here to open the school. So then we figure out how to get the school open, and somebody'd hit the button and go, oh, such and such a judge didn't make it in. So I wasn't even going out anymore. I was sitting there hitting buttons going, okay, how can I solve that? And totally.
You would put out the fires.
And it was always stress. And I took it personally because my name was all over it. So I didn't want to run a bad event in any city. But when you're running 50, totally, not totally, but a lot out of your control. Mm-hmm. So, but what happened was this, what kicked me over the edge was this woman. She was from St. Louis. She was a friend of my mother's. I knew her through Dance Masters of America. And she called me on the phone and she said, Rhee, I love you. I love your mother, but I can't come back to your dance competition because you psychologically devastated my kids because I gave them a bronze medal.
Oh, Rhee.
Which was where we were at in 1994. You could still do that. Right. Not 94, 2003. You could still do that. Mm-hmm. I asked her how her kids were, and she goes, oh, they're the worst dancers I have. I go, were they better than your silver medal dancers? She goes, no. I said, then what's going on here? And she said, oh, you can't give less than a silver medal because otherwise you're psychologically devastating kids. And that did it. I know it sounds weird.
No, it's not weird.
I hung up the phone and I had taken in a business partner. Her name's Gloria Jean. Her family's still running that dance competition. And I turned to Gloria Jean and I said, I'm out.
And she's like, for the day or for forever? What's going on?
She thought I was kidding. And then, a little bit later in the day, she's like, next year's 25. You don't want to do 25? I said, no, because if I do 25, I might do 26.
I don't know, Rhee. When you know, you know.
I knew.
When you know, yeah.
And all the years of running dance competitions and mingling with and making friends with and listening to dance teachers' issues and problems and growing up with a mother who was a dance teacher, I didn't know that after I did the dance competition that I'd land where I landed, but after a little while it all made sense. It was like, okay, this is it. And look at the world we're in today. There is a seminar or a session or whatever for business owners and teachers, all these organizations. None of it existed before that.
And you know what, Rhee? I couldn't imagine being a dance studio owner and not having that. I'm sure that probably sounds like I'm sure your mom felt like she was alone on that island of the dance studio ownership world, because I remember I went to the Dance Life Teacher Conference, but no, now that I'm saying that, I went to the retreat center. And I remember I walked in there and I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I knew what I was doing, but then once year 2 hit, I didn't know what I was doing. I had an idea, but I know I needed to make money, and like, how is it all going to happen, and how am I going to make it happen? But I was very thankful that I had options to continue education specifically for dance studios owners, because for me, I know how to teach. I know how to choreograph. I went to Temple University. I have a choreography degree. I mean, I can always learn more things. Yes, absolutely. But I felt confident in that. I felt confident as a teacher. It was that business owner that I didn't feel as confident in. I knew what I wanted to do, but to be able to stand there and back it up and give a reason why I'm doing it and feel confident in that reason and be able to have that reason on paper in a handbook and a handout on my website, like all of that, I didn't have any of that. It was just kind of like, well, this is how I want to do it. Well, why? When people question it just because they don't want to know, I didn't really have good answers. So I think we're very lucky right now that we have something like the Dance Teacher Conference, right? Like the Dance Life Teacher Conference is amazing. Like that is something that that's something we get to go to, and there's different, like there's a teacher room, there's a business owner room, there's just, you can go there and there's so many things that you can learn. I remember the first year I went, my mind was like blown. I went to the Phoenician and my brain was just blown by it. I remember I still have my notebook from when I was there. It's like, that was like life-changing. And then when we went to Atlantic City, that's when I got into the Gold Alliance. And even just being in the Gold Alliance has been life-changing in so many ways to make me feel comfortable in what I want to do with my studio, you know?
I know I want to say this about what you just said. I could run a commercial for the Dance Life Teacher Conference right now, which was a great way to put it in. But I'm just going to say this to our listeners. Come be at the Dance Life Teacher Conference this summer, July 19 to 21. Oh, no, I take that back. 22 to 24. Soul is 19 to 21. It's a conference for dancers. And I'm not going to sell the conference. I'm going to say something in response to what Laura said.
Mm-hmm.
You probably heard me say it before, but I want to say it to our listeners. There's not a secret when it comes to the business. The secret with the people that I work with isn't great ideas, isn't I'm going to start this new program, I'm going to make $1 million. It is getting people to believe in themselves. Yeah. It is actually helping people to better understand what is the journey that I want. Because in our world, I feel like everybody looks to other people and says, well, if I have what he has, I'd be happy. If I had what she has, I'd be happy. If I had more students, I'd be happy. If I had more rooms, I'd be happy. If I sold more tickets, I'd be happy. Mm-hmm. You will be happy when you say, I can do this. This is how I want to do it. This is my plan of action that I'm kind of going to stick to because I'm pretty smart. And you go for it. Once a person has the confidence in who they are and where they want to go, they want to go are the key words. They can have anything they want. It seems so simple. But it's what my mother didn't have. That in 2025, so many more do have. And that's my purpose. Boom.
Yeah. And Rhee, I kind of, when you say that and I think about like your mom doing it on her own, and I think about my home studio owner, Anna Marie, doing it on her own, I think to myself, wow, what strong, independent, go-getting, out of the box, determined women they must have been to do that in a time where men were only doing it. Like, to me, like, for her to go open up her own business out of her basement and then for it to grow to what it is even after she's gone, right? Like, it's just, she has a legacy that everybody knows. I'm in Pennsylvania. People know the Gold School, right? Like, and when people say that, I'm like, oh, I know Rhee. They're like, you know Rhee? Like, it's like people know we're states away and people know your mom's legacy still. But think to have that when there wasn't all the tools that there are today takes a really strong person to make that happen. And I think that's something that she should be incredibly proud of. And I know that all of her children are too, because that's pretty incredible.
I feel her pride all the time, honestly. But I want to say something about that because you bring up a good point, but there's more to it. A woman who started her own business in the 60s and 70s had to prove something. So therefore, if you were a woman in business, especially in this man's world that it was, you kind of gave up everything to be a success because you worked 24/7 because you wanted to be legitimate. You wanted to be respected like everyone else, male or female. You were willing to sacrifice. But society wasn't willing to accept where they thought you should be as a mom or a woman. So I think those pioneer women who had the guts, whether it's a dance studio or whatever it is, in the 60s, maybe even the 50s, the 70s, a woman couldn't have a credit card in this until like I think 1972 or 73 without a husband. You couldn't have a credit card.
And when did your mom open up her studio? Like from her basement? When was it? When was her first class?
1964.
Wow.
I hate to repeat myself because I've told this story, but I want to repeat it because it's a good story. My brother Rhee runs the studio, hosts a 50th anniversary for the studio. And my mother is Rhee and I were her first students, but one of her first students was the next door neighbor. Her name is Marilyn Margolis. And Marilyn Margolis got invited to come to this reunion, but she lives in California. And she was coming, then she was diagnosed with breast cancer. She survived, but she couldn't be there. She sends a video. She doesn't say one word about her dance training. She says, what I got from having a dance studio next door and knowing Sherry Gold was that a woman could run a business, that a woman could be strong. And I'm sitting there watching the video because I didn't know how that had come in, right? I thought she was going to talk about her recitals and everything else. I sat there, I go, ooh, my mother would have loved this.
Because that's her legacy, but that's a part of her legacy too. That's incredible, because now she has that, I don't know, I feel like in order for the mold to be broken, someone has to break it. So she was that person who broke it, right? And then because of that, it trickles. Now the water can go through the crack, and it just can keep going. Things can change. Other people can open up their studios, and other people can be inspired to, to me, I love that I have girls at the studio and boys who are graduating. Some are dance majors, some are dance minors, some are now come back as alumni and teach for me or co-teach for me. But to me, I'm also full of pride for, my student who's in South Carolina, and she's a scientist. How amazing, right? She juggled a competitive team and full of AP classes all through high school while dancing at Libra. And now she's a scientist. You go, girl. I have another one who's a lawyer and still dances occasionally on the side. She's like, because she says, my job is very stressful, but dance gives me a release. That's my release. I love to dance. So to me, it's like, I'm so thankful that dance gives them all different things, whether it's just a lifelong appreciation for the arts or a long-lasting career, or maybe they know they want to give that to their children growing up to give them that experience so they have those morals and all the things you get from dance that aren't just a kickball change and a pas de bourrée, right? That we all know. I think it's, I don't know. I feel pride in all of them, and I see all of them, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing that you all, and I know that it's like they all take a little piece of the dance studio with them.
Oh yeah.
Forever.
If we remember that as educators, as teachers, and we thought a little less about how good they become as dancers, we'd feel like our lives were more rewarding.
Yes.
Because I agree with you. Doctors, lawyers, smart people, advocates. I look back at kids who grew up in the studio that was my mom's and Rhee's studio, and holy cow, they are so successful. And yes, dance is intertwined, but it's a lifestyle of success.
Yeah.
It's a mindset of success.
Yeah. And you think about it too, Rhee. This is something that I had a senior who's graduating, and she had her first competition this past weekend. She was our first one on stage, hip hop soloist, and that girl can dance. And when she was on stage, I had this, like, I always watch from the very back. I have to stand because I pace when I watch them on stage. I don't know why. I can't sit. I have to stand. My feet start doing paradiddles if it's tap. Like, I can't control myself. So I'm in the back and I can see her on stage. And all of a sudden I had this like flashback of like her being on the mini hip hop team when she was 6 years old and I was choreographing on her. And I'm like, God, here we are, 12 years later, and you're going to go off to college. And she wants to be a teacher. She wants to go into special education. So having a son who's going to be going into different classes with special ed and gets different therapies, that's so close to my heart. She has been such a huge help in our Hip Hoppers for Dances with Special Needs class. When it was a larger class, she would go in and assist. And she's just a special kid. And my other graduating senior as well, she's going for teaching too. They're just such good kids. But the one has been with me since she was little. I wish I would have had the other one longer because she's a gem as well. I've only had her for maybe 4 years at this point. But to watch that and to think back, like, how lucky are we that we get to see them grow into young adults, to young women. They don't get that on soccer. They don't get that in basketball. They graduate. They go to the next coach. They go to the next team. They go to the next travel this, next travel that. Like, how lucky that I stood in the back of the theater and I had a flashback of her in her knee-high socks and her little tutu hip-hop routine, looking with her crazy colors and the cute little sporty jacket. Like, I had this moment. I thought to myself, God, I'm not even her mom, and I'm having this like flashback, but like how special that we get to be a part of all of that, that I got to be such a big part of her life. That's something I'll never take for granted, because I don't think that's something that other coaches get to experience from 6 to senior in high school, to then be under your roof and you be such a big part of helping them grow and helping them hopefully to become good people, not just great technicians, right? Like, but good people. I feel like that's a really cool thing that I feel like we should all like be grateful for and remind ourselves of, that's something that not many other activities get.
No, and at this time of the year is a good reminder.
Yeah.
We're about to head into what people write on social media at this time of the year. Oh, competition season is about to begin. The chaos.
Buckle up.
Yeah. Or it's recital season. Don't come talk to me. I look at it and I go, you should be saying it's recital season, the greatest season of the year, even if you're slightly concerned.
Right.
Like, okay, we could go on with this for another hour, but it's 11:59 and I think we should end. We will be doing some more of these. Who needs a guest, I guess?
Right? Oh, no. We have great guests, though. We always do.
We have great guests. So,
you're right, Erin.
Yes, Erin, it was good hanging with you for this hour. Erica as well. I think Tammy's here.
Yeah,
Chris.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
I'm going to give a closing teaser to everybody. We have another coffee talk in 2 weeks with a special guest, Vicki Wallace, who has a studio in Pennsylvania. She has a large dance studio, but also a huge gymnastic program, and just opened a ninja school. So she's this unique entrepreneur. And we're going to make an announcement about a big change with Coffee Talk. So you think about that for the next couple of weeks, and we'll see you then. Thanks, Laura. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye, everybody.